Welcome everyone. Just getting everything set up. I have the line officer sessions board up. They'll start streaming here in about 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give a brief introduction. So this whole premise is to just help as many people pretty much get their packages together and like their do's and don'ts and things like that, and things that the board has seen as common errors and things like that. So just stick around. They should be on. Just stick around. They should be on. Just stick around. They should be on.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sergeant Daddis. I'm one of the program managers for Line Officer here at headquarters. I'm joined with my counterparts who are also here with me. We're just wanting to give this briefing for everybody. It will be recorded, so if you have friends or people that you work with in this information, with my counterparts, it will be recorded with me, so that way they can refer back to it as well. Just wanted to give this briefing. But the purpose of this briefing was just knowledge. If you have obviously being active duty, work with are your recruiters with my counterparts. It will be recorded with me. To the name, if you will, as well as cover a couple things that just may be a little confusing. Obviously, and go over a couple things with you, so that we can get the information across to you, and as well as cover a couple things that after we'll be answering questions. I will stop the recording beforehand, just that way the questions aren't on the recording as well. But if you have anything during the briefing, the other PMs here will be going through the chat to see those questions, and either A will chat or I'll talk about them on the stream. So we'll go ahead and get the briefing started. So I wanted to talk about, as a disclaimer, like I said, we're putting this on ourselves. This is not Air Force official or anything of that nature. This is our information as that we're giving to y'all. A lot of this information is things that we cover in our briefings. We have a workshop orders that we go through with the new recruiters that come in. A lot of this information is on the briefing that we give with them, as well as a lot of this information is the to the board members. So the individuals, the colonels that grade your applications, this information is also on that with them as well. This is not an Air Force official one. This is our information to y'all to hopefully, again, answer those questions and squash those. Some of the things that we'll talk about today, just a little introduction for myself. What we actually managers, a lot of people are confused about what we actually do here at headquarters, so I'll be covering that. The application itself for your line officer application, a lot of the common errors that we see as program managers and on the QC team, a little bit of scoring, and so what the board members will look at, what they grade your applications and everything based on, booking for OTS class seats, and requirements. So we'll talk a little bit about what we do when we book you to OTS, and then the post-board requirements afterwards. A little bit of things, and then we'll close it out with questions, like I said, after we end the recording and give that time to y'all. So, program manager responsibilities. We are the PMs for active duty. We also cover civilians as well. The best way to think about us, the recruiters for active duty. If you're thinking about officer and you come in directly as an officer, we are recruiters. So we handle your applications, we QC them, we get you all squared away. Obviously, you won't go to MEPS or anything because you're already in the military. You submit and things of that nature. But again, the best way to think about us would be recruiting, or the recruiters for active duty. We do cover all other. We don't necessarily put them on like with SLEPO or special warfare. There are special recruiters for that, but we do handle such as SLEPO, special warfare, CPWs, RPA to bars. When I say we work those, that means that we help get the paperwork. We don't initiate it or anything or recruit those individuals. We are the middleman, if you will, for that process. Civilian and active duty applications, and as I'm sure a lot of you are familiar, the new warrant officer that's getting off the ground. So with managing the applications, a lot of that with civilian, the recruiters handle, because as they are their recruiters, they handle the application with them. But we do QC them and get them squared away before the board members see them. Active duty side, again, like I said, we are the recruiters essentially for active duty. So we help get your AFCEP taken care of, your application, we get it QC'd for the board, so that way they're good to go when the board members get there. We also produce the board schedules, so the OTS and the warrant officer boards. We do have a specific warrant officer program manager. She started about manager for warrant officer and getting all that squared away. We kind of help each other hand in hand because of the factor which warrant officer new. So a lot of that is still being developed and worked on. So we do still have our hands in the cookie jar when it comes to warrant officer as well. Application and the QC process. As I said, with the applications, some of you might be familiar with this. If you have submitted to a board previously, it has to go through the process. And the reason why for this is a big portion of it is you got to understand the colonels, when they're here for their entire week, applications, we want them to have, you know, their eyes on the target. We want all the T's to be crossed and the I's to be dotted. So when we're giving them a product that it's, because them as board members, their sole mission is to get those graded and squared away, so that way they're good to go. So one of the, during their briefing is we explain to them, hey, everything's been taken care of. All the waivers have been processed if needed. Have been looked over with a fine-tooth comb. Everybody who is going for this board is qualified, set on their AFSCs that they listed, and are squared away. So that's all that we want them to focus on. So that's a huge thing, which I'll get a little bit further into detail later on, explaining the program manager, basically what we handle, or not what we handle, but the back end of things, I should say. We do run and manage. So that kind of goes hand in hand with the QC process. That's part of everything. Funny enough, our QC next week is for the 04 board. So who have submitted an application, the QC team will be here all of the next week. We're going to go over all the applications and get all those squared away. I think we have about 700, almost 800, it was 790 something applications for this upcoming board. So we will be next week QCing all those and getting those squared away for the board members. We are the ones who update the PSDM and the official notification via AFRES. So sending out the PSDMs, the official notifications, the secure release, we are the ones that handle all that information. Typically, I'm sure y'all put the, you know, you connected the dots. We typically do the secure release a week before official release. Please understand, you know, this is a pretty well-oiled machine, but hiccups do happen. Sometimes, you know, that happens and we do get the results out. Sometimes we can't get those out. So, but typically, you know, we've had record, you're looking at about a week earlier for the secure release and then the official release. All of you are tracking that for this upcoming post-selection. We handle the back end and booking to OTS. Again, those two go hand in hand, the post-selection and booking to OTS. Obviously, you as a applicant, once you become a select, you will have a set of instructions for your post-selection responsibilities. We need that paperwork to get you squared away for OTS. Those two things, like I said, go hand in hand together. We are the ones who also book you to OTS. I'll dive a little bit deeper into what that entails, just that way you can have a better idea of what that looks like as well. We wanted to cover this. We get there might be a little bit of confusion just because of what we ask you to submit. And I kind of just wanted to go over that. So what the board members actually review. The board members will review your application, your test scores if you're going for a rated board, your TBAS, the 2 letters of recommendation, the newly added fitness tracker, and then the SIP interview, which you're familiar with. Now, We do ask for the additional paperwork, such as your transcripts, your EPBs, and things, certificates, all that jazz. And the reason why is for a couple different reasons. A, during the QC application process, we have to obviously QC. We have the information there is valid and that it's not fabricated. The other thing as well is, yes, this might be all that the board members see initial review. However, they do have the authority to request further information. So for whatever reason, if the board members are reviewing an application and they can't come up with a solid score as for the individual, they do request additional information. That's when we bust out the EPBs. That's when we give them, the EPBs, the transcripts, and all that stuff. So yes, we do ask for it. They might not review it upon initial review. However, we have had it before to where board members have requested that information. So like I said, just wanted to cover that. We do get that question a lot. So just kind of wanted to touch base with you all about that. Obviously, for further questions on that matter, you can review the program announcement for any further guidance as well. So going into the application, just kind of wanted to talk about this. I get on the Facebook page and I see a lot of y'all communicating and keeping connections through that, which is great. I love it. It's good stuff. That's what the Facebook page is for. So I always talk with LT about that and how that's great that y'all keep in contact and help one another, not give each other the answers, but obviously coach and mentor each other when it comes to the application. So just kind of wanted to touch base with that, go over the application entirely, some of the changes that we made, which some of you are familiar of. Are familiar about, and go from there. So obviously with the first page here, the new additions that we've added, just to kind of break that down into further detail. For those of you who might notice, the two first questions there have those blocks added to them. We did shorten the amount of space that you have in that box, and the reason why is because for about the last 2 to 3, I want to say roughly, boards, we had the kernels, because we do get the feedback from them on their processing briefing. We had those kernels explain to us, hey, listen, we're reading through these 2 questions and we get it. They want to tell us their life story, why they're motivated for, et cetera, but kind of got it for the active duty members. You got to kind of sort of look at it like an EPB. You got to get to the meat and the potatoes. So, and a lot of these kernels, they're reviewing for a week straight, somewhere up between about 400 to 500 applications. So after about, the 200th application, they start going a little cross-eyed from looking at this stuff. And they wanted the applicant to get to the meat and potatoes of their questions. For the shortened boxes, this is the change that we made for those kernels to help them with what they told us about. So that's the reasoning for that change. The questions are still the same, so make sure you're thinking long and hard about that and just consolidating it to what is provided to you, so that way you can get to the nitty-gritty about your two questions right here. So, and then the other thing, as it may seem, please put your information on the application. Okay, don't leave James A. Patriot. We have seen it a couple times and it happens. Make sure you're updating the board, especially if you applied for an NRS board or a supplemental board, because y'all leave that out there. And then when you apply for the 03 board or the 04 board, you see that it's the supplemental board. And that's obviously not the case. Just be mindful that you're triple checking the application before you submit it, okay? Going on to the next page of the application, the important one here would be for duties and responsibilities. The important thing on this page for work experience would be the duties and the responsibilities and accomplishments. Again, going back into the EPB format, meat and potatoes, and you have to really think about, explaining your responsibilities and duties to the board members. Yes, will be in the field that you're looking to apply, and by that I mean rated officers or rated applications and non-rated officers grade non-rated applications, but not all of them might be a mechanic, be security forces. Not all of them might be public affairs. So you have to explain to them, just how important it is what you're doing in your job. Another thing too is the supervision or the supervisory of your individuals. Make sure about that as well. We've had it before to where board members have seen basically have seen exactly when or may not be exactly telling the full truth. So just, again, these are full bird kernels. You're not really going to pull the wool over there. Make sure that what you're telling them as far as your responsibilities and your accomplishments are accurate. All right. All right. So this next page with your education, a couple things that changed on here. If for those of you who the SIP code and the major and name of the university. Again, with the prior board members, one of the things that they had talked about, instead of us giving them the entire transcripts, one of the things that they were wanting was just the university information. So obviously, some universities, let's just say a little bit more challenging than others, and they want to be able to take that into consideration. Again, they just want to be able to have another tool to grade the applications and give those accurate feedbacks. The SIP code, that's again for us for the QC, for you as the applicant. One of the things, if you've applied for the prior boards, you may or may not have had a kickback or heard about a kickback. You need to make sure for the application or for the AFSCs that you're listing through your degree. Okay, and that's with the SIP code. If you refer back to the and the program announcement, then you should be able to determine whether or not your degree qualifies you for that certain AFSC. The main acquisitions manager, it never fails. We get a lot of people who may have a general studies degree and no or management experience, and they throw acquisitions manager on there. There is a criteria that you have to meet in order to qualify for certain jobs in the Air Force. So that's part of the equation right there. Certificates and licenses, the academics, and again, make sure you're providing the proof of the certificates and licenses. This is a little bit of an older update, but it is still an update that we've incorporated in the last day. But for those of you who may have applied earlier last year or earlier in the year or even last year, one of the things that we've done is increase the amount of AFSCs that you can list. The reason why is because we want to give applicants the ability or the capability to put as many that they want on their application. We took a poll from older boards of individuals who were not selects. Asked them, hey, if you had the capabilities or possibility to add more than 8 AFSCs in order to get picked up because you want to become an officer, would you do it? 100% of them said yes. They weren't. They wanted to be a commissioned officer, and not saying they didn't care what AFSC they were in, but they would have made your effort into putting more down so that way they could become a commissioned officer. Now, don't get me wrong, we do have those individuals that are, as we call, job locked, might put 1 or 2 AFSCs down, and that's fine. That is perfectly fine. You're not going to get anything that you don't want when it comes to getting selected for the board, but we want and the ability to put more AFSCs down if you were given the chance. Continuing down, again, pretty self-explanatory, law violations, and then the statement down below and the signature block. About that, please make sure you sign your application. You're literally signing it saying, hey, this is my application. Nobody forged this or anything like that. This is me submitting it for submission to the officer board. Get a lot of applications that don't have a signature block or a signature on the block, and we can't, you gotta sign for it. All right, common errors. Okay, so this is a big one. So again, for those or other boards in the past, if you have had a kickback during the QC process, it could have been one of these. These are the ones that we get. Please understand, 9 times out of 10, if we kick it back, we try to tell you what it's for. I mean, you got to understand, the last board had 996 applications that met the board, which means you add about 300 more to that. Applications we had to QC, we had about 1,300 applications, or 1,200 applications. My apologies. We try to give feedback, but we do try to go and say, hey, this is what's wrong with your application. But you have to understand, there's only a handful of us here doing it, and we try to get that information. We're really crunched for time. All right, but you can help yourself. Make sure that your application is squared away by A, following, of course, but also B, just double and triple checking it to make sure that some of these errors don't go, to make sure that some of these errors aren't on your application. One, using the AFOCD to validate your AFSCs that you list. It's kind of something that I just talked about with you with the SIP codes. One, all right. Acquisitions manager, weather, engineering degrees, all those require specialty degree codes. Make sure that you're doing yourself justice by going through and validating you are qualified for the AFSCs that you list on your application, okay? Another thing, other AFSCs such as OSI require additional steps. Please refer back to the PA for that. OSI additional steps such as an interview with the OSI director at a base local to you. You also meet a different board entirely. Things like that that are in the program announcement that you need to refer to and square away to make sure that you're doing what you need to in order to apply. Okay. Another big one, another huge one, I should say, rounding the GPA. Please don't round your GPA. All right. We off of your transcripts when you submit it to us, and we literally go off of your transcripts. Okay. That's why we also incorporate in the program announcement for you to circle or highlight and your final GPA is. So make sure that you're doing that so that way we can refer back to it and get you squared away during the QC. But again, self-service by not rounding your GPA from your transcript, okay? This one, another big one, digital signatures. You know, track it. I see it on the Facebook page. Make sure that the signatures carry over on the paperwork. This also includes, okay, so the letters of recommendation, make sure that your leadership signature doesn't fall off when you're uploading it to your application, okay? We submit it to the board because it's not validated, it's not signed. So we can't help you out by submitting you to the board if your application along with those other documents are not signed. Only 2 LORs and active duty must have the wing endorsement equivalent or higher. We get it. There's not every squadron's the same, and we completely understand that. So make sure you're checking with your MPF if you yourself are not sure. Correct endorsement, so that way we can submit you for the board. This is the authority allowing you to apply for the board. All right, you have to go through them. They have to. There's no getting around it. We have had it to where leadership has called us directly and said, "Hey, I don't know where that endorsement." And we've had to pull applications before in the past. So make sure you're doing yourself justice by checking to make sure that the right avenues are being when you're doing the letters of recommendation and getting your endorsement. Okay. Another thing too, again, only 2 letters. Don't, if you get 3 or 4, that's great. That's awesome. Take it upon yourself, review the letters of recommendation, go to your leadership, ask or a mentor, if you will, and get the recommendation. But don't try to submit your application with 3 or 4 letters of recommendation. Equal grounds for every applicant when they go to submit for the board. So it's not fair to you, or it's not fair to the individuals applying, or somebody you know is submitting an application with 3 or 4 letters of recommendation. It's not fair. So again, that will be a kickback. Make sure you're only uploading 2 letters of recommendation. Listing non-rated or rated jobs on the application. Again, just be mindful of it. Make sure you're reviewing your app. Something as trivial as this does not hold you up. This is a very minor one, yes, but when we get about 20 or 30 of them, they start to add up really quick. So make sure you're reviewing these, your application with the AFSCs, and make sure you're good to go there. For AFCEP, this is a big one. This is not, a QC error. This is for individuals with AFCEP. .mil or iCloud emails are not recognized in the system. All right. So for those of you who I didn't get the AFCEP request or the AFCEP notification, what's going on, make sure you're not having one of these, so that way you're good to go, and you can receive AFCEP. Okay. So again, .mils, .health, iCloud, whatever are no-goes. Okay. The next one, make sure the unit commander's master PIF review request memo and the LP, the local personal information file quality force review letter response are included in your source documents. You can't submit. All right. Again, kind of sort of with the LORs, this is your command acknowledging you submitting your application and that you don't have anything negative in your. Right. So both of those forms, signed and dated appropriately, need to be included with your documents. All right. We can't afford otherwise. And then the last one isn't really an error, but I just wanted to bring this up with, I see a lot of earlier in this year on the Facebook page, a lot of people referring to the supplemental boards and the 180-day waivers and things of that nature. So kind of think about it is supplemental boards are extra boards, if you will. Okay. So they don't require the. So if you've applied to the supplemental board and then you want to apply to whatever board's scheduled next, as in the O2 board or the O3 board, that's fine. You don't require a 180-day waiver. And then vice versa. If you've applied for the O3 board and then there was a supplemental window, apply for that, that's fine as well. You just, again, make sure you go back to your application, change the title of the application, make sure everything's good to go with resubmitting it, and then you can submit to the supplemental board. I saw a lot of questions when we had our supplemental board earlier this year on the Facebook. I did chime in every once in a while. Obviously, I can't live on Facebook and reply to everybody's posts, but a lot of people, like I said, connecting one another, and they were able to answer the question as well. So again, just wanted to break down supplemental boards a little bit. All right, so this is probably the more interesting part of the slideshow for y'all. This is a little peek behind the Wizard of Oz curtain as to what are going for when it comes to grading your application. I will say, excuse me, the next slide, if you have your phones, the slide for you to take a photo of, save on your phone or your desktop, and just kind of refer back to it as a template. But for right now, let me explain to that one and remind you all about that one. So when it comes to the board members, these are the areas that they're reviewing your applications for. All right, you got education and aptitude, experience and leadership, and potential and adaptability. Experience and leadership is highlighted because that's the highest portion by an additional point from a scale of each board member. Just to kind of break it down a little bit, the board itself is comprised of 9 kernels selects. Each panel is 3 kernels apiece. All right, and then you as the applicant are either going to be broken or not, either categorized into the Alpha panel, Bravo panel, or if you're a civilian, the C panel. So what happens is those 3 kernels are responsible for grading your application. They grade it on a 6 to 10 point scale per board member. All right. We do We do coach them on selecting, but we do coach them on grading these applications on a whole person concept. So a good way to explain that, to where I've tried time on the Facebook group, is a lot of people will post on there, hey, my GPA is a little low. What do y'all think? Mentorship, they're looking for some coaching advice. That's not solely what they grade applications on. Is it a portion? Yes, it is. But they do rate these applications on the whole person concept. So you might have a lower GPA, but if you're killing it on your AFOQT scores, you have these the certifications and the letters of recommendation, then that's great. So don't cut yourself short by just getting into the mindset of, oh, I have a low GPA on crap board score. That's not the case. All right. And leading into that, this is the important slide that if you have a phone of it, I would highly recommend you do that. And the reason why is because what I was just kind of sort of referring to. Each of these categories, these are examples. So yes, for education, your GPA might be a little bit low, but your AFOQT scores are awesome. Maybe you got some academic awards and a little bit of a slump, but you were able to bounce back and get some of those academic awards. Your pick some scores might be great, things of that nature. So just because you might have a negative or a bad blemish on one portion of your application doesn't mean that you can't bolster it in another category. Other areas that we had talked about, the experience leadership and demonstrate leadership, things like letters of recommendation from your superiors, which is referred to in the letters of recommendation, any awards you might have won, your scope of responsibility, and then service to the activities that you might do or base involvement. That's kind of categorized in that category. And then last, potential and again, the LORs can kind of explain this in deeper detail, personal experiences, obviously staying out of trouble with law violations as well. So, but to break it down, these are what the board members look for. This is the whole person concept. So when you hear people say, oh yeah, review it based on the whole person concept, this is what they're referring to, okay? And again, this, if you make sure you take a photo of it, if for whatever reason, again, this is being recorded so that way you can do that. This will be posted on the LT's YouTube and then as well as the Facebook page. We're going to incorporate it onto our SharePoint so you can access it from there as well. All right, so a little bit of the that we handle after selection, okay? So booking OTS class seats. The illustrations that you have here, or the photos, my apologies, the system that we use called AFRIS, all right? So for each of you that are submitting an application, whether you're civilian or active duty, everybody gets put in. And this is the program that we use to run everything for the boards, for OTS, and getting everybody squared away there. So for booking, we are only allotted a certain amount of OTS class seats a year, all right? Not only that, we are only allotted a certain amount of OTS per class. We're not the only ones that are requesting class seats, okay? You have to understand there's health professions, so all the medical people like the doctors, the dentists, those people. You have ROTC, all right? So ROTC detachments, they also require OTS class seats. And then you also have, well, they require OTS class seats. So everybody is kind of plucking OTS class seats in general, and a certain amount. So we get a lot of questions like, oh, can't you just add me to this OTS class seat? No, we can't. They're capped out at a certain number because they only have instructors over at OTS, and then we're capped out for the fiscal year every year. So we can't just pull OTS class seats out. We are only allotted a certain amount. Later class seats. We get it. A lot of people, and this hand in hand with the first bullet there as well. Here's the thing. With people in your personal lives and everything, please gauge when is an appropriate time for you to apply for OTS. Okay, if you have a lot of life stuff going on, family matters, personal matters, things of that nature, obviously we get it. Everybody's human. They have important things come up. Maybe you should put the OTS stuff on the back burner and handle that stuff and then apply to OTS. And the reason why I say that is because of booking for class. As you can see with the bullets, we can't just pull OTS class seats willy-nilly. All right, it's a whole process and things of that nature. So taking care of yourself because of it's important because it's not exactly great for your mental health to be going to a training environment, regardless of about OTS, it is still a military training environment, and you want to make sure you're squared away. All right. We want you to be focused on the training there at OTS. That way you can grab. We don't want you to, second guess yourself with personal matters and things that you have going on back at the home. All right. Yes, we availability into consideration. But again, it is the Air Force, and we do give you will be leaving for OTS, and we try to get you all squared away for that. The kick the can down the road mentality, you're only hurting yourself. All right. Because again, if you go to OTS and you're not in the right mindset, we don't want you to wash out. Heaven forbid, you go there and you just can't make it through it and you've done all and it goes up in smoke. So please take care of yourselves. Make sure you're applying when you're good and ready. So that way, when you're good to put that, pull the trigger, get squared away for OTS, you're all set. There's no questions. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You're determined, you're ready for commissioning, and you're ready to knock that stuff out. Leading into that, making sure your paperwork is squared away. Things like flight physicals and PRP documents. If you get notified upon your selection that you're taking the initiative to knock that stuff out. All right. Some of you who may have applied for the O3, hey, getting your post-selection documents to us. We're starting to do timelines for stuff. And that's because we need to get the ball rolling here for y'all. So that way we can get you taken care of. So another thing that would incorporate is PRP documents. If you're selected for one of those AFSCs that does require PRP, please make sure that you're taking care of it front rather than kicking the can down the road and just worrying about it later. You're only hurting yourself because we literally cannot schedule you for OTS. Take care of those things. So flight physicals, PRP documents, stuff like that, you have to take care of before we book you to OTS. We get it. You just got selected. Your whole career is about to change. That's awesome. But we still got to do the paperwork. All right. So that's important for y'all to take. Again, just the windows for submitting class seats. Like I said, we want to get you taken care of. All right. So if you're waiting until the last minute and these classes start to, fill up, because again, we're only allotted a certain amount of class seats per OT. You may be good and ready, but because you waited so long, we don't have a class available for later on in the year. And we get it. Some of y'all wait about 6 to 8 months. We have to get that stuff taken care of first before we can send you to OTS. So again, take care of yourself by knocking that stuff out so that way we can get you taken care of. And then last, a little bit of GWiz information. OCONUS needs at least 90 days and CONUS for 60 days for OTS. Pretty self-explanatory. A lot of you PCS'd already, so you're quite familiar with it, but it's trying to give you and your MPF the allotment to get you squared away so that way you can TD or PCS properly without any ifs, ands, or buts. Okay. All right. So again, in booking to OTS classes, one of the things that we do is, as you can see, the photo on the left-hand class assignment QC checklist, and then we just have an example of a 2808 stamp on the right side. This is what we as program managers use to book you to OTS. So we have a QC that we go through and that we take care of. As you can see there's some boxes that we need to check. So things that we look for, your Air Force Form 56, your 368 if you that's for civilians. your physical. This incorporates your 422 and your flight physical. Scroll, which so we typically knock that out upon selection, and then your transcripts as well. So again, referring back to the paperwork that we require from you, we do require that so that way we can get you taken care of for OTS. For the medical portion, the rated jobs, as you can see, and then the PRP jobs at the bottom. This is what your stamp needs to have for your booking to OTS. So rated jobs there, the pilot, the CISO, or the combat system operators, the air battle managers, and the remote pilot aircrafts. These are the stamp pilots. You need at least the FC1s certified. Typically, your medical will tell you qualified for the position and everything of that nature. And then breaking down PRP, you at least need the GBO mods stamp. If you look at the image to your right there, that's typically what the stamp will look for. That's what we look for as far as program managers for booking to OT. And then in the red there at the bottom, the 422s expiring after 1 year. We get it. Your medical department says otherwise. This is an OTS. So that is a rule that they have told us. So that is a rule that we have to follow. So, and then the last portion right there, the IFCs. All right. A little bit winding down here. I think we only got a couple more slides. Things to just remember. The AFOQT can only be taken 2 times. A third time with an approved waiver. For those of you who are familiar with it, are in the program announcement, please make sure that you refer back to that. So that way you're following the correct guidelines for a third AFOQT if needed. You don't need to be an officer in your current AFSC. This one's actually a pretty common question. A lot of people are under the impression that you have to be an officer in the field. That's not the case. The mindset that those people have, we try to help them out and say, hey, yeah, you might be as an enlisted member or security forces as an enlisted member. You don't need to keep that going. If you want to, then yeah, sure, you can put that down on your AFSC. You don't have to be an officer in your current AFSC that you're in now as an enlisted member. You can become an officer in a different AFSC. So might give you a chance. If the AFSC that you're currently in, you're not exactly fond of and you're trying to do something different, here's your opportunity to try to do something different then. Must still be qualified medically when applying. Okay, so a lot of people ask us, hey, I'm still in the Air Force. Why do I need a medical? Because you're going essentially back to training. You're commissioning into the officer realm. So you have to be approved medically to OTS and be verified that way. So we do need updated 422s that reflect that, saying that you're good to go, you're and you're not on any ALCs or things of that nature. So the AFCEP window. Okay, so for the AFCEP, sorry, these are my notes, so I'm trying to remember. But the AFCEP window, a lot of people think that they have to have their within that window. That's not the case. So for the AFCEP window, you just have to request it and log in within that time frame. Okay. If your application is not done, that's fine. You still have to, within that time frame of what we give you for the AFCEP, you have to just request it and log in. There you go. So if you log in and you still don't have your application for another week or so, then that's fine. But you at least have to get the link, click and create your password, all that jazz, and then sign in. And then you'll be good to go that way. And then the last portion right here, these for program announcement updates, for all the forms and where to view them, use this link to be where you request your team's access. Again, if you are a civilian on this briefing, that's perfectly fine, but you will be obviously, you do not need this. But if you are an active duty member, then you'll use this link to access it there. Okay. Notes. I was thinking about this. right beforehand. Just wanted to add a couple more things. We're the middlemen, all right? So only a couple of us up here, specifically 3 so program managers that handle, again, all active duty and the civilian app processing it. Operations do a great job for the squadrons and getting the civilian applications taken care of. But again, that stuff is handled. So please keep in mind that we are the middleman and we work for Air Force Recruiting Service. So AFPC, constructive service credit, we don't do that. All right. So we're the middlemen for that. We might, for instance, AFPC, a very common one is we don't push that. We upload it to a spreadsheet when we're booking you to OTS. We get all your information squared away, and then AFPC has a that they push all that information. So you emailing the org box asking us for a CMS case or emailing us directly, which you're not supposed to do. Cover that a little bit later. We don't handle that. We don't have the authority. We don't have the capabilities to do any of that stuff. So please just try to put. Okay. The other things, medical, we don't process 422s. We don't set up medical appointments or anything like that. That's stuff for your application. Okay. The post selection for the AFCEP, I basically already covered that. For whatever reason, if you're conducting your post selection forms, your PRP forms and things, and you're locked out of your AFCEP, a lot of you do this. So thank you for taking it upon yourselves to take care of this. But if you email them to the org box, we can handle it from there. I'm not saying use that as an alternative. You are supposed to upload them in the AFCEP because that's how it gets processed. But for those who are, panicking and you can't get into your AFCEP, if you email it and title it appropriately for the org box, we have access to that as well. So again, just kind of wanted to reassure a lot of you that when you're emailing your forms to us and you're like, hey, I'm so sorry. Like, I know it's the last day before I can't get into my AFCEP. I'm hoping this meets it your way. And you email it to the org box. That is fine. We do take care of it. So yourself out there. Okay. This one's pretty big and important. So please use your chain of command as directed in our org box to contact us. Reasons are, first off, a lot of the time they have the information or the program announcement these answers from. We get a lot of these questions and the information is in the program announcement. I'm not trying to be that person, but it is true. The org box, I've talked about it in the Facebook page and stuff. We try to get to it when we can. We have boards to run. We're chickens with our heads cut off. So we're trying to take care of you, but you need to go through your leadership. Okay. And the biggest reason that we want you to kind of sort of help spread the knowledge is getting your leadership involved allows us to explain the situation and spread that knowledge to future applicants. Okay. So instead of just telling you, hey, yeah, you're not qualified for this, your transcripts or something like that, that just goes to you. But if we're telling your commander that, then we're telling the commander, hey, sir, or ma'am, is why this individual is not exactly qualified for these AFSCs. And then what that commander has is that knowledge, so that way next time if Airman Snuffy comes up, different Airman Snuffy, and they're like, hey, sir, ma'am, I want to apply for the board, however, I don't think I'm qualified for this AFSC, then the commander say, oh, well, this is what they told me, so let's look at your application and handle it from there. So that's the biggest reason, honestly. Just continue to make sure you're routing stuff appropriately through your chain of command. We would greatly appreciate it. And then the last thing, again, just kind of wanted to reassure y'all, we keep things fair. So whether that's applications, OTS seats, AFSCs, we don't favor or anything of that nature. We keep it fair. The applications, they get handled. That's why as I did. Remember the letters of recommendation, that's a big one. You know, if letters of recommendation are coming up with an application and it's got 4 letters of recommendation, fair. Okay, so we take care of that, get it all squared away, and we keep things fair across the board for you, the app. So, but that is the PowerPoint presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and end, and we'll take a little bit of time to go through some of the questions if you have any. Again, thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Hopefully this was able to answer some concerns, and we so this might be something that we do quarterly, annually. We'll kind of go from there, but we definitely wanted to do it this time frame. GPA that is on their transfer of application. Yeah, so for that question, I want to say y'all can hear them, but basically for if submitting an application, so you upload you'll have a letter.
Hey, Sergeant Gaddis, it's Lieutenant Gray. Can you hear me? All right, so I have a few questions that are from the YouTube. Sorry I didn't ask immediately. I had a problem with the audio, but one of the questions, okay, I'll wait. Test 1 2 1 2. Yeah, let me see what's going on. All right, so can you hear me now? Okay, so one of the questions that came up on the YouTube was, can you ask them to clarify on the GPA for applicants that have not yet graduated? Do they just put the GPA that is on their transcript at the time of the application? Question that someone had was, I am an amputee, but I'm fully qualified for my current senior job on this side. Oh, you did it? Okay. Okay.
fine. Just make sure that if you're following your transcripts, you're following it correctly up until those two. All right, you're not changing anything. You're, again, not rounding anything and things of that nature. So as long as you do that, you'll be Gucci.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. This is definitely going to get butchered. But Sergeant Belzam, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your mic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, so in the for my transcripts, when I ordered them from my supervisor, they came through email. But on the transcript itself, his name isn't on that anywhere. It's just mine. But I'm not on there as a recipient. I'm on there as a student. Do you guys need a separate document showing that the transcripts were in fact sent to the supervisor? So do you need proof, or if they're mailed, the cover sheet? I guess what I'm asking is what's the proper way?
Department. Sir. And then, hey, y'all. All right, there. Why was because we wanted to get the information. I do think I made a Facebook post about it. So, but no, you are good to go, and you can tell your leadership that as well. For the 25 OTS, the old paperwork is perfectly fine. The new PA will officially take effect in FY26. All right. And then LT, yes, sir. This is already addressed. Can we post questions in the chat? No mic on my end. Oh, yeah. Sergeant Murphy if you have a question, that's fine. We'll probably keep this going for about 5 or so minutes. Question, but well, I'm not gonna lie, I think everybody left. So, but okay, so that for the YouTube questions. If you didn't hear the question was if the digital signatures do not carry over, can we print off, upload them? That's perfectly fine. A lot of the paperwork is scanned and uploaded. So again, if you're wanting to make sure that the signatures stay on there, that is the proper order with the application, and you'll be all squared away. And then Sergeant Murphy had a question of waivers. I know the PA states they are good for 12 months, so that we submitted to a previous board within 12 months, do we just change the board information on that waiver and dates as well? i.e., I'm assuming you were approved for the 02 waiver changes for the 2601 board. Yeah, so waivers are done on our end through our leadership, so the board members don't see them. What they do see though is what you put on your application. So the law of your application, that's where that stuff is. For the waivers themselves, if that is approved in that circumstance, then yes, you don't need to change it. You're perfectly fine. Just re-upload it when you go to upload your documents and include it with your new application, and we'll pull it when we pull your information and stuff. You'll be good to go. So, all right. I'm not gonna lie. Somebody last minute. Go ahead and unmute you.
Yes, sir. Hello, can you hear me?
Louder, but yeah, you're right there. Yeah,
Perfect. Is this better?
that's better. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I know you mentioned, I caught the comment you made earlier about not emailing directly to you. So
No,
yes, sir.
kidding.
If there is questions that come up throughout the process, I know we have Facebook and things like that. But if we're looking for sources, is there, I guess, a better, more professional way to go about that, or do we just hold off until the next meeting that you said might happen?
So honestly, so the thing about asking questions, no offense, 99.99% of the time it's in the PA, but we're not ignorant. We understand that there are special circumstances, of course. We just ask that you use your proper chain of command, and the reason why is kind of a bit earlier in the video or on the slideshow is we want you to ask the questions to your leadership because they might have the questions, but also for whatever reason, that commander, he or she comes in contact with another applicant that's not you, and they have a similar circumstance, then at least they'll have that knowledge for the next time, as opposed to just you. You know what I mean? So, you might email us and say, hey, I got this question for you, which is the answer, but we want to give that to your leadership. So that way, if, Airman Snuffy down the road, it from the horse's mouth, they can answer it right then and there, as opposed to a person reaching out to us. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, not a problem. That's another thing too. They are a lot of the questions also can be asked through them as well, and they can get the answer there for you. You can get the answer there. So yes, sir. LT.
Yeah, is it working now? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay,
Much better.
Great. Sorry. But one of the questions that I saw on the YouTube, someone's asking for
On the YouTube?
post-election. Yeah, for post-election, what was the deadline to have everything submitted into AFCEP? I feel like I've seen someone say 120 days. If someone's talking, I can't hear them in the back.
Oh, no, sir, that's fine. It's,
Okay.
is it the question asking about post-selection documents in 120 days?
Yeah.
Okay. What were you going to say, sir? Yeah.
We understand, obviously, sometimes medical is able to take care of that, but you get an initial thing, basically assume it can get you in passing, but 120 days pay the medical guide based on the time we need 60 to 90 go open November of 25 if you're all that. We just moving forward. What we don't want is for someone to just sit there and say, "Oh, you know, I got this family vacation, or I got this or that, so I'm documents until 5 or 6 months later," because now we're at risk of potentially missing our allocation from half. So that's the importance of it. You have per DAF man all the way up to like 450 days, I think, to actually attend OTS. So that's like worst case scenario. If you're getting to the point, even because of medical, then we need to know about it. But if it's just a delay, you're waiting on the MTF to sign your document, you're waiting on the SG to sign your medical document, just keep.
Awesome. And I know there was one last question.
Yep. Yes, sir.
It's from a civilian. It says, "I am a civilian. For the endorsement LOR, does it have to be within the last 4 jobs you have worked?"
They're civilian, and it says what?
The question is, for the endorsement LOR, does it have to be within the last 4 jobs you have worked?
What's the question?
I would assume they're asking for like a LOR, a letter of recommendation. Does it need to be signed by someone they've worked with within the last 4 jobs?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So for civilians, specifically, they need a character statement and an academic statement for their LORs. So yeah, that's if they want to do that.
Okay. But does it have to be within the last 4 jobs they've had? I think that's what they're asking.
Oh, a bit of coaching when it comes to letters of recommendation from what board members have told us in the past. Who knows you? Okay. We have had it before where us as program managers have literally QC'd letters of recommendation, and the individual, whether it be a civilian, leadership, whatever the case is, has put on there, "The one time I met this person, they seem." Here's a little bit of coaching for that if you're still on here. You want your letters of recommendation from individuals who, yes, well established, whether it be rank, authority, whatever the case is, but a letter of recommendation would look a lot better from knows you for about 6, only met you twice. So we look at this a lot harder, or not harder, but we take more seriously, and it means a lot more because of the factor which this person has been under this person's supervision for about like 5 or 6 years, a month. So if you're asking, this letter of recommendation, I'm getting it from a job that I had, which was 2 years ago in time, you would probably want to use something that's a lot newer, because the only recollection that person has of you is from 4 years ago. So And then, okay, Sergeant Roman, I'll unmute you one more because you only asked one question, so I'll let you do it one more time. And then we'll LT, how are you doing on your end? Are you getting?
Yeah, sorry, I got to keep unmuting my mic. Yeah, I don't really think there are any other questions that I didn't
Okay,
answer or ask.
awesome. So Sergeant Roman, I'll go ahead. We'll answer your question, and we'll go ahead and wrap up here afterwards. So you're unmuted, sir. You can unmute.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Mine's
Sure.
fairly quickly. So in regards to items that won't fit into the app, necessarily just in general, I know we spoke about the GPA and how you would just leave it as is.
Yeah.
Would this also apply for things like my current duty position? Without going into detail, it won't necessarily fit, and it contains an acronym that is not an approved acronym. So is that for someone that might not know what that means?
Yeah.
What would I do
So-
in that situation?
So let me go ahead. Do you hold up? Is it still showing? Am I still sharing my screen or no?
No, I don't see it.
No? Okay, tell you what, let me do this. Okay, it's back up now, right?
Yes.
Okay. Oh,
And that was like a application that may not.
no. So with that, oh, did I not? I failed. Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, it is. Okay, so on the application after this page right here, do you see this?
I see it now, sir.
Okay, cool. All right, so after this page, there's going to be one last page, and that's going to be the final page of the application. Box below that, it'll say basically any additional comments. That's where you can put the acronym template if you want to explain, if you just want to take like 2 or so sentences and explain a little bit further into detail what you were trying to explain. That's what that box is for at the very, very end. All right. So if you have things like that you couldn't get your point across in that box, again, don't use the whole dang box to keep things short and sweet for the board members. But if you want to explain things, maybe like the acronym or a little bit of detail, like 2 sentences of what exactly that is, do it there if that makes sense.
Yes, sir. That's perfect. So I would just reference the line and kind of an explanation.
Yes, sir. Yep. All right. And I said we'll do one more. All right, sir. I'm unmuting you. You're good.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So take for example, in a situation like me, I put on my packet that Staff Sergeant select, and that was when my leader. It wasn't on my RRU or CDB or whatsoever. In a situation like that, will there be any point in time or the conveying day that you guys might give us opportunity for some of us to add additional document or to add updated document or to our submitted application on AFCEP?
Unfortunately, no, we can't. Once, so the board cutoff date, once that's passed, in between the gap in between now, when the cutoff date is and when the board convenes, that's when we got to draw the line and keep it fair for everybody. So when was the cutoff for the 10th? So yeah, so the 10th of August was the cutoff date for that. Unfortunately, that's what we got to go with, sir. I'm sorry. But that's again, that's to keep it fair for everybody. That's the cutoff date. That's the cutoff date. So, all right. One more check. LT, good on your end?
Yeah, we are good on my end.
Okay, awesome. Well, hey, everybody, again, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. It's for me to, as a recruiter, to do these things. I'm stuck behind a desk here, so it's nice to be able to recruit people again and stuff.
But thank you all very much. Again, the video will be posted, so that way you can refer back to it if you would like to. And best of luck to you all on the boards, and have a great week. Other than that, y'all take care, all right?